Welcome to day 5 of the R Advent Calendar 2019. We're going to pick up again right where we left off yesterday in day 4. Alright, so the instructions on the 5th day of Christmas are how to get help. It's really easy in R. You put a question mark in front of the function name and then run it. So let's do it real quick. You can see that yesterday's code is still here. This was sort of that basic calculator code we were working through yesterday. You can run each of these lines by just hitting Control Enter. And then, like I said yesterday, these last 3 lines here are functions. You can tell they're functions because they have a parentheses after them and then a value that the function is going to work on. So if we weren't sure, for example, exactly what this sqrt function did, you could put in a question mark sqrt in your console and you hit enter, and you will see in the lower right some help comes up. Now this particular help is shared between a few functions, so you can see that it includes the help for the absolute value function, which we also have here, the square root function, and is that all? I guess it's just those 2. And it tells you pretty clearly that square root of x computes the square root of x. It also helps you, it tells you that the arguments, in this case there's only one argument which they've called x, and that's this is a very hard way to put it, a numeric or complex vector or array. In this case we just gave it a vector of 1. Now we're going to come to that later. But one value is a vector of length 1. So let's just do a little bit of experimentation here. So we haven't talked about it yet, but the way you define vectors in R is with the C command. So if we say C 0 and 1, now we have a vector of length 2. We're going to get into all this later. I don't want to scare you too much. But really quickly, we're just going to see what happens when we run a square root on a vector of, let's say, 25 and 100. You can see that now square root returns 2 values. The square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 100 is 10. And we're going to get into this, I'm sure, in much more detail later on, but it just means that this function is more flexible than just being able to take the square root of single values. For today, though, the important thing to remember is to get help on any function, you're going to want to put a question mark in front of it. And you can type in the name of the function, like setwd that we learned about in day 3, I believe. And if you hit enter, in the help pane of RStudio, you will see the help file appear. In this case, again, it's the same help file for both getwd and setwd. And usually there are some examples at the bottom that can be pretty helpful. In this case, it's a little bit vague, but I would say the most helpful things for me are usually the examples and the arguments that describe what that function needs to be able to run. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. Otherwise, that's all for today, and I will see you tomorrow for day 6.